Her life isn't easy. She takes medicine for a variety of ailments, including diabetes, suffers from sleep apnea. She can't live alone, is losing or has already lost many of her friends due to their age, and she isn't allowed to drive. But life isn't bad for Margaret DeMarco. She's happy and looks forward to each day, spending her days remembering the laughs from the past and building memories with her family to remember in the future. Memories they can all look back on one day, just like she does now. Each a chance to lighten up life when the going gets tough. As she begins to remember the memories of her past, her eyes seem to grow younger, the sands of time briefly releasing their grip on her. Many of Margaret's younger years were spent dedicating time to assisting the local moose lodge. Each year, she donned a variety of costumes for various parties. Truly enjoying delighting the children of the lodge, Margaret would dress up in nearly any costume for any cause. One particular costume, a giant pumpkin, was held wide with a hula hoop at its middle to keep her round, and ran from her neck to her knees. It was completed with a large, green-stem hat. Looking at herself in the mirror, she was left wondering, how did I ever get the nerve to do all this? Standing there, unable to sit due to the hula hoop, she convinced herself that she did it because she was having fun, and she liked seeing the expressions on the faces of whoever she was trying to impress. The pumpkin was only one of a list of costumes Margaret wore. She remembers Easter at the Moose Lodge with a twinkle in her eye as her hands, now wrinkled with time and use, outlined giant bunny ears on top of her head. It was time for the lodge's annual children's Easter party, and Margaret dutifully dressed in a bunny costume, a costume she admits made her look a little ridiculous. However, never one to miss an opportunity to embarrass any of her 5 children, she didn't delay on filling up the gas tank while completely outfitted in her floppy ears, bunny tail, booties, and big pink stomach. Her daughter Teresa worked at the local gas station. When she saw her mother pull into the station in the costume, she walked away, acting like she didn't know this crazy woman. Regardless of her daughter's reaction, she was having a good time, and even drove to and from the party without taking off any part of the bunny costume. Hunched over like a witch, her face painted green, making her wicked looking, all to hand out candy to the neighborhood children, Margaret loved Halloween. This particular costume, unlike her funny others, actually made her evil looking. The look was completed with a black sheet dress, a black wig, a pointed hat, and a fake nose, chin, and 2-inch nails. Her yard accented the costume, as it was decorated with cobwebs and ghosts hung from all the trees, perfectly catering to her eerie appearance. Loving the kids' different reactions to her cackling and other witchy antics, Margaret acted the same with each one that came up to get candy out of her bowl. Most of the kids were not afraid of her, knowing her as their neighbor or bus driver, and Margaret loved bringing a smile to the children's faces. Always one to have people she enjoyed spending time with, Margaret had a few very close friends. Of these friends, her best friend was Georgiana. Georgie, as Margaret called her, was fun to be around, but was always a trickster. Margaret needed to stay on her toes whenever they hung out, as she never knew what Georgie may do next. If Margaret let her guard down, Georgie would always get the best of her. One such time, Margaret and Georgie visited a mattress store in a mall. Georgie encouraged Margaret to lay in a waterbed. After much encouragement, Margaret laid in the twin-size bed, but soon found herself unable to get out of the bed on her own. The angle and rolling motion of the surface prevented her from swinging her leg over the raised edge of the bed frame. Seeing her friend trapped on the bed, Georgie simply walked away laughing, pretending she didn't know this crazy woman who had trapped herself in the bed. After the manager of the store, stifling his laughter about this woman stuck in a rolling sea of a bed, helped her return upright, she marched up to her still laughing friend, who stood outside the store watching the whole ordeal take place. "Why'd you do it?" she asked. Georgie's reply, "The devil made me do it." Georgie may have been a trickster, but she always brought fun and laughter into their times together. One time, she picked up Margaret while riding a purring motorcycle, encouraging her to get on. After some convincing, Margaret climbed aboard and the two friends sped off down the road. They visited their friend's house, honking and begging her to come out to play with them. Seeing how ridiculous they looked on the back of the bike, she refused to join them. Far from the type to be stopped by people thinking they looked funny, the two women left their friend and drove to the main drag to watch people watch them on the bike, half a ton on the back of a motorcycle. They loved people watching them, these two motorcycle models. Not all Margaret's best memories are from a distant past. Some even occurred just a few years ago. Not long ago, when she was still allowed to drive her car, while backing it out of the driveway, she slid the back wheel into a ditch, firmly trapping the vehicle. With her daughter standing in the front yard laughing, she attempted to drive it out, but to no avail. The car was stuck. She couldn't drive it forward, and definitely couldn't back it out. With nothing hurt but her pride, Margaret told her daughter, "Don't laugh, get a tow truck." A tow truck was called, and the car lifted from the ditch, but not without laughter from both her daughter as she recapped the story, and the tow truck driver when he heard how the car got stuck. While getting stuck was not funny at the time, nor does she find it all that funny now, the reaction her daughter has, to this day, of the memory of her mother's huge mistake is priceless to her. Another story, which is mostly funny due to her daughter's reaction, not the event itself, is the story of how being nice turned into a disaster when she offered to help a neighbor. The neighbor needed to borrow a wheelchair, so Margaret walked it to her house. Always a kind woman, she stayed a while to talk to her neighbor. By the time she needed to head home, a storm had picked up. Walking the folded wheelchair up the hill to her house, the rain and hail coming down, she nearly made it when the wheelchair sprung open. She flew over the chair and into a mud-filled ditch. After picking herself out of the muck, she continued home. Knocking on the door, her daughter answered. Margaret could not even get out a word of explanation before Teresa broke out laughing at her mud-covered mother. Cutting off her daughter's laughter, she ordered, "Don't just stand there and laugh. Get me a towel." One of Margaret's favorite memories to remember and laugh at is that of her surprise 50th birthday party. This is the party that her daughter ordered her a stripper. She remembers this day very well, from the sound of his music pulsing from the boombox to his leopard print G-string. With a single red rose in his hands, the stripper entered the backyard where she was opening presents. He walked up to the swing where she sat and simply asked, "Are you the birthday girl?" before he began dancing and stripping right in front of her. Red as a beet, she watched him strip down to his nitty-gritties from beneath the Panama hat she had just received as a gift. By the end of the striptease, Margaret was over being shy. To end the show, she whispered in his ears, "Let's give him something to talk about." The two schemed together, and soon the stripper, still only wearing his G-string, was sitting in her lap, the pair pretending to intensely make out, much to the guests' delight. Margaret DeMarco's life has been filled with memories, many funny, a few even crude, and all of which she remembers very fondly and bring a smile to her face each time she thinks about them. Her present life may not be completely easy, but many of her memories are happy, and these memories help her. And as she sees it, what is life but nothing but memories?